I've seen this dude play a full game, don't take a shower, go to the club, and some of the baddest women I've ever seen in my life.
Thanks for that, darling.
I really do. I think you're gorgeous. Yeah, you really appeal to me. I think you're hot. I really, really, really love you, and I really, really, really want to take you out.
It's like being in the meat market. Hell, you got your fresh choice. You got this, you got that, you got your cut here, you got all kind of cuts.
He was out every night, all night, and to have the stamina that he had, it's pretty remarkable. He killed that you need a good night's sleep theory.
When he got to San Antonio, he met Madonna. Everything just went wild with him. Their hair coloring, just the polarizing, he was a polarizing figure. And then when he got with the Bulls, it just magnified.
Shaquille O'Neal wasn't talking about rebounds there. He was talking about women. And according to Shaq, Dennis Rodman's pull in the 90s was on a completely different level. Shaq says he watched Rodman finish a full NBA game, skip the shower, throw the same clothes right back on, and head straight to a club where some of the most attractive women he'd ever seen were already waiting for Dennis. And when somebody gives Shaq a hypothetical team that even includes Kobe Bryant, Rodman is still the guy he picks as the superstar. That's a crazy level of respect. But Shaq isn't the only NBA name with a Dennis story. Michael Jordan has talked about having to get Rodman out of bed. Steve Kerr says there are Rodman stories he still isn't allowed to tell publicly. Dan Patrick went out with him one night and stopped short of explaining exactly how everything ended. Carmen Electra was there when Jordan came knocking on the door. And back in 1996, a television crew actually captured women approaching Rodman while the cameras were rolling. These are the stories NBA legends have told about women chasing Dennis Rodman during the 90s, and the wildest claim came straight from Rodman himself.
Chapter 8, entitled Sex. 50% of life in the NBA is sex, the other 50% is money. You really believe that?
Of course.
And it doesn't matter which city?
It doesn't matter. You could be in Canton, Ohio, and they're there. North Dakota, South Dakota, they're there. They'll bust in.
Rodman described that part of NBA life with a chapter number and a one-word title. But the second half of his answer was even crazier. According to him, the city didn't matter. Canton, Ohio, South Dakota, smaller markets, freezing cities, even places NBA players weren't exactly hyped to visit. Rodman claimed women would still show up and try to get close to him. That's a massive claim to make on camera about life around the league. And obviously nobody can go back and verify every city or every night. So there's always the question, how much was Dennis turning up the legend? Then, in 1996, a television crew followed him on the road to see what his life actually looked like. And things got interesting fast.
Rodman was more than just all right. Even as our cameras rolled, women approached him, proposing a little one-on-one, something Rodman says happens all the time to NBA players.
Women walked directly up to Rodman while a TV camera was pointed at him. That wasn't Dennis telling an old story years later. The crew filmed it happening in real time. Same crew, same trip. Later in Miami, they followed Rodman out of the arena toward the players' exit, an area where regular fans weren't supposed to have easy access.
This fan had been waiting for Rodman outside the players' exit in Miami. The woman, who'd been waved past security by Rodman, had a message for him.
You got your fresh choice. You got this, you got that, you got your...
One woman was waiting nearby, but she didn't sneak through security. Rodman himself waved her through. Security was specifically there to keep people away from the players. Yet Dennis decided she could come over. And the fact that she'd been waiting there adds another layer. She apparently knew where the players would come out and had some idea of how long she'd need to wait. That's pretty close to the kind of scene Shaq was describing.
Take a cold shower while we talking, then come out and play. After the game, put his stuff on, go to the club, and the baddies come out.
Full NBA game, quick cold shower, or sometimes apparently no shower at all, same clothes, then straight out into the nightlife. In Shaq's version, this wasn't some legendary one-off night. It was basically Dennis being Dennis. But the people who actually went out with Rodman have stories that sound even more chaotic than the ones coming from players watching him from across the locker room. Dan Patrick experienced one of those nights himself and later told Reggie Miller about it.
Every time you went to get a beer, he made you do a kamikaze. Every single time. And he had his arm around a guy and a girl with a Chicago police shirt on. And who knows what happened after that. I just know that Dennis did not get cheated that night.
According to Patrick, Rodman had basically taken over an entire private bar, and kamikaze shots were everywhere. Patrick said he couldn't even go get himself a beer without somebody putting another shot in his hand. Every single time he tried, another one showed up. Then Patrick reaches the part where things apparently got too wild to fully explain. He gets as far as, who knows what happened after that? And that's where he leaves it. He doesn't pretend to know every detail, and he doesn't fill in the blanks. The only thing he'll commit to is that Dennis did not get cheated that night. By that point, Rodman's nightlife reputation wasn't exactly hidden. Charles Barkley wasn't personally on those nights, but he was reading what was being reported about Dennis at the time. That's an important distinction. Barkley was describing the stories and coverage surrounding Rodman, not claiming he personally witnessed everything. Still, the word Barkley lands on is remarkable.
Read in the newspaper that he was out every night, all night, and to have the stamina that he had, it's pretty remarkable. He killed that you need a good night's sleep theory.
Especially because he's describing a man who, based on those reports, barely seemed to sleep. Eventually, this wasn't just gossip floating around NBA circles. The Bulls actually had to figure out how to deal with Dennis disappearing into that lifestyle. And one of their solutions was straight up sending teammates along with him. Steve Kerr got picked for one of those missions.
Hey, listen, Dennis is drifting away from the team. I want you guys to go with him to Atlantic City tonight. He chartered a bus. He's going down there to play blackjack, and I want you guys to hang with him. And Judd and I were like, oh, okay, well, we're just the guys for the job. So we had a wild night with Dennis in Atlantic City. Stayed out all night, came back to the hotel at like 7 in the morning, and we had to practice that morning.
Kerr has never publicly named everyone who was around in Atlantic City that night. He simply calls it a wild night and keeps certain details locked away. But he does reveal one key piece. 2 teammates were sent along to help keep Dennis under control. The 3 of them finally came back at around 7 o'clock in the morning, and Phil Jackson was waiting for them when they walked in.
And as we walked into the hotel, there was Phil looking at us, and Judd and I didn't know how to behave. And he just said, go get your stuff on. Practice starts in 2 hours. And Dennis had the day off because all the starters had the day off. And he just turned to us and said, see you later, suckers.
The chaperones went straight to practice. Dennis, he went straight to bed with the day off and apparently told them exactly what he was doing. Sometimes, though, one night away wasn't enough. Bill Wennington remembered watching Rodman walk out of the building and basically disappear.
I do remember him leaving. Like, he was in the building and then he just left. And it was like, well, where's he going? And Phil comes down and says, give Dennis a little bit of time off. He's got 48 hours, which we kind of all knew was going to get extended. And then when we found out he was going to Vegas.
The deal was supposed to be 48 hours in Las Vegas. But according to Wennington, everybody in that locker room already had a feeling those 48 hours weren't really going to stay at 48. What Dennis actually did during that trip isn't explained in the clip, and nobody there claims to know every detail. What they do agree on is that Phil Jackson approved the break, and decades later, people still can't believe it happened.
Rodman got the approval from Phil Jackson to go on a bender in Las Vegas for what was supposed to be 48 hours. Ended up being a little longer than that. Paul, I cannot imagine another player in the history of basketball getting that kind of hall pass from MJ and Phil.
And we're not just talking about another player on that Bulls team. We're talking about something people couldn't imagine another player in basketball history getting away with. Paul Pierce explained why a team would ever approve something like that.
Dennis was always going to be Dennis. And as long as he gave you 110% on the court, you can live with some of his off-the-court antics. Everybody knew how Dennis was off the court. And if he needed a break, you kind of backed off.
His point was simple. As long as Rodman gave you everything he had on the court, you learned to live with everything else. Because everybody already knew how Dennis operated. If Dennis needed some space, the Bulls gave him space. But even that doesn't fully explain what Michael Jordan reportedly found when he personally went looking for Rodman.
He didn't come back on time. Ready to go get his ass out of bed. And I'm not going to say what's in his bed.
At some point, getting Dennis out of bed and back to practice had basically become somebody's assignment, and Jordan has openly talked about doing it himself. Then he stopped short of giving every detail, especially when it comes to who else was there. He didn't really have to reveal it, though, because Carmen Electra later told her side of the story herself.
And I hid. I didn't want him to see me like that, so I'm just like hiding behind the couch with covers over me. Come on, you We gotta get to practice.
Electra recalled hiding behind a couch with the covers pulled over her while Michael Jordan, the biggest athlete on the planet at the time, showed up telling Dennis Rodman to get to practice. Jordan wouldn't publicly identify who was there. Electra eventually filled in that blank herself. And somehow, that's still not even the Rodman story Steve Kerr refuses to tell.
Rodman story that you can tell me?
I got a ton that I can't tell you.
Do you have one, though?
Well, let's see. I mean, yeah, there are a lot. Trying to pick apart the ones that I'm not allowed to tell.
When he was dating Madonna.
Kerr has suggested there are plenty of stories he simply can't repeat publicly. You can almost watch him sorting through the memories, trying to find one that's safe enough to share. And one era he keeps touching on before pulling away from involves Madonna. Tracy McGrady has his own theory about that relationship and how Rodman's public image changed.
I don't think the Bulls changed Dennis Rodman. I think Madonna changed Dennis Rodman. He was. We talking about the queen of pop in the 80s, who was controversial and didn't care what anybody thought or how she lived her life.
To be clear, that's McGrady's interpretation, not something that's been proven. His reasoning is that Madonna had already spent years publicly showing that she wasn't worried about what people thought of how she lived. And McGrady points to the Dennis Rodman people knew before that era.
Like Dennis in Detroit, we hear he didn't drink, he didn't do none of that crazy stuff. He didn't dye his hair, no tattoos and all of that. He didn't have that in Detroit. When he got to San Antonio, he met Madonna. Everything just went wild with him. Their hair coloring, just the polarizing, he was a polarizing figure. And then when he got with the Bulls, it just magnified.
In his description, no drinking, no dyed hair, no tattoos. That was Detroit Dennis, a version almost unrecognizable compared with the larger-than-life personality people remember today. Then came San Antonio, the Madonna headlines, and eventually Chicago, where everything became way louder and far more public. But after all those crazy headlines, maybe the strangest description of Rodman comes from Steve Kerr, a teammate who actually saw him in the gym every day.
I think the thing with Dennis that people would be surprised to know is that most of it was an act. You know, he's actually a very shy, quiet person. At practice, he'd go and all kinds of hell would break loose. And you'd turn on the TV and you'd be like, what the hell's going on?
According to Kerr, Dennis could be shy and quiet at practice. Think about that. His own teammates could be around this quiet version of Rodman during the day, then turn on the television and discover stories about the completely different life he was reportedly living outside basketball. Shaq picking Rodman over Kobe, a camera crew filming women approaching Dennis while the cameras were rolling, Rodman waving a woman past security in Miami, Dan Patrick getting to the wild part of his night and saying, who knows what happened after that, Michael Jordan refusing to identify who was there when he came looking for Dennis, Carmen Electra eventually telling her side anyway, and Steve Kerr still holding on to stories he says he can't repeat publicly. That's what the attention surrounding Dennis Rodman looked like in the 90s, according to the players, reporters, and people who were actually around him. Some stories are firsthand, some are personal theories, and some still have details nobody involved seems willing to put out there. If you think Dennis Rodman was one of the most underrated stars of that era, hit that like button. If you've heard an even crazier Rodman story, drop it in the comments below. Subscribe for more stories straight from the legends and people who lived through these eras, and share this video with somebody who remembers just how wild 90s NBA culture could get. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.